Hello everyone, this is Remlays from 40k Theories, and welcome to this new episode of 40k Lore for Newcomers. For this episode, we will be taking a brief look at Renegade Space Marines. As always, this is a brief overview for certain events, and as such, they will have in-depth videos dedicated to them within the future. So without further ado, let's begin.
Forget nothing. Forgive no one.
The term Renegade Space Marine is given to those warriors of the Adeptus Astartes who are seen to have turned their backs upon the Imperium. Unlike Chaos Space Marines, Renegade Space Marines have not necessarily become tainted by the powers of Chaos, nor do they utilize the aid of demonic entities. More often than not, many Renegade Space Marines will still remain loyal to the Emperor of Mankind, even if they hold no love for the Imperium, the High Lords of Terror and their bureaucratic process, though there are some exceptions to this rule. The numbers of renegades can range from exiled individual battle brothers, full squads or battle companies, or in some instances, even entire chapters. Some Astartes become renegades of their own accord, feeling unappreciated or taken advantage of by the Imperium that they were tasked to protect. Others are forced into such a life by those that they once called friends and allies in order to simply survive, such as being subject of a misunderstanding, which in turn led them to being declared excommunicate traitoris by the Inquisition. Others still will fight for the promise of power or loot, becoming little more than pirates and marauders. Regardless of their reasons for doing so, these renegade Astartes, like their loyalist and chaotic cousins, are still highly skilled, intensely strong and exceptionally durable warriors, and can become dangerous wildcards upon the field of battle, where no one truly knows if they are friend or foe.
Without a purpose, an Astartes is nothing. A warrior without a war is no warrior at all.
Space Marines breaking their oaths and abandoning their chapters is not a new occurrence. Such actions have been taking place as far back as the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy. These particular renegades would be known as Black Shields. The Black Shields would scour most of, if not all, traces of their parent legion's heraldry from their armour, which they would then paint black to show that they hold no allegiances to anyone but themselves. During the Horus Heresy itself, many Black Shield warbands would be encountered by both loyalist and traitor forces, and were documented with performing unauthorized or even illegal modifications to their equipment, or even utilizing Xenos weaponry within their arsenals. The exact reasoning for these Space Marines becoming Black Shields varies between each individual Astartes, but many of these individuals or warbands that were encountered by Imperial forces would be typically classified under one of four designations. These include Death Seekers, which are Astartes that had become psychologically unstable and sought to die honourably in battle. Outlanders, Astartes who have become more self-serving, acting as brigands and pirates in pursuit of power and plunder, often even carving out their own miniature empires. Orphans of War, veteran Astartes that have become embittered and hostile to both loyalist and traitor alike, trusting no one but themselves. And Chimera, warriors created through the unsanctioned splicing of gene seed, often by a rogue apothecary. Such warriors would usually be mentally unstable and sport a variety of mutations, making them unpredictable and dangerous. Following the events of the Horus Heresy, the tradition of the Black Shield would appear after the formation of the Death Watch Space Marine chapter, where an Astartes can sever all ties to their parent chapter in order to atone for any actions, be it of the individual or the chapter, that are considered shameful or heretical, in order to serve the Emperor of Mankind and the Imperium one last time before dying in battle with their honor intact.
Honor your chapter.
Over time, many Space Marines will become renegades for one reason or another. One major incident in recent years was that of the Badab War, where the Astral Claws, Mantis Warriors, Lamenters, and Executioner chapters would attempt to secede from the Imperium. Their reasoning behind this was that these chapters refused to allow the Administratum to circumvent their Emperor-given rights and powers, believing that doing so would be dangerous. Following the aftermath of this war, the Astral Claws, who eventually rebranded themselves as the Red Corsairs, would flee into the depths of the Maelstrom, establishing a pirate empire within its depths, and eventually the chapter would become subjected to chaotic corruption. The Mantis Warriors, Lamenters, and Executioner chapters, however, would be granted the Emperor's forgiveness after undertaking a century-long crusade of penitence, and would return to the fold of the Imperium at large. The Venom Thorns chapter attempted to create their own sub-empire, similar to the realm of Ultramar ruled by the Ultramarines chapter, by claiming dominion over the worlds they conquered for the Imperium. The Imperial Fist's chaplain known as Belisar would attempt to reason with his wayward cousins that such an action could only lead to greater conflict throughout the Imperium. The chapter would fail to heed Belisar's warning, and many of the Venom Thorn's battle brothers would be slain by the chaplain. While many renegade Space Marines will eventually succumb to their lust for power, conquest, or greed, and become true Chaos Space Marines, others will still proclaim their loyalty to the Emperor and continue to provide aid to Imperial forces, even if they will be forced to flee immediately following the culmination of the battle. One example of this was the Relictors chapter, who after numerous quarrels with the Inquisition over the chapter's study of and experimentation with chaotic artifacts, would be declared as heretics. Despite being labelled as traitors, the chapter would continue to fight alongside Imperial forces, most recently during the events of the 13th Black Crusade, where the entire chapter fought to stem the tide of chaos emerging from the Eye of Terror. Another prominent example is demonstrated by the Knights of Blood chapter, who were declared excommunicate traitoris after the excessive behaviour demonstrated by the chapter when hunting down and purging potential threats to the Imperium came to light. Although they were distrusted by other Blood Angel successor chapters, due to the Knights of Blood embracing the gene seed flaw of the Black Rage, the Knights of Blood mustered upon their Primarch's homeworld of Baal to defend it against the threat of High Fleet Leviathan, but were rumoured to have been wiped out during the conflict. Another renegade chapter that proclaimed loyalty to the Emperor was the Soul Drinkers, who were declared traitors after an incident with the Adeptus Mechanicus involving a chapter relic. Forced to flee from the Imperium, the Soul Drinkers would fight both alongside and separately from Imperial forces over several years, even dealing with schisms in their own ranks. They would eventually be captured by their primogenitor chapter, the Imperial Fists, and brought to their fortress monastery, the Phalanx, but after being almost wiped out by treachery from within, the survivors disappeared into the warp, with their honour redeemed. And that concludes this edition of 40k Lore for Newcomers. If you liked this video, consider supporting us on Patreon for more content. To those who are new to 40k, we hope you learnt something. So leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.